SLT Fibre and experience the power of fibre technology. Sri Lanka's only super fast internet connection. SLT Fibre. Call 1212 now.
Tonight, view from afar. Though the dust is settling on the post-Easter attacks tension, international community sees different.
Those of us at a distance from Sri Lanka have been very disturbed by the growth of Islamophobia.
No ministers in parliament. Opposition uproar erupts as questions left unanswered. What are you made of? The SLPP challenges the UNP's self-proclaimed presidential candidate to show substance.
We want to urge Sajith Premadasa to spell out his policies pertaining to national issue.
All that and much more coming up on First at 9 this Thursday, the 5th of September 2019.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
මුහුණ සති කීපයකට කලින් Fair and Lovely men ගෑවට පස්සේ මාක්ස් අඩු වෙලා ෆෙයානස් වැඩි වෙලා.
මාක්ස් අඩු කරලා ඔයාගේ ෆෙයානස් ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එක වැඩි කරගන්න. Fair and Lovely men anti marks cream.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamming Iknaika. Let's start with your local stories. Now, the Supreme Court today set a date for the counsel representing Inspector General of Police Pudi Jayasundara to inform the court on his client's decision on submitting a revised affidavit instead of the one labelled by the Attorney General as false and malicious. Attorney General Dappula de Oliveira, while having rejected IGP Pooji Jayasundara's affidavit accusing him of framing charges against the police chief on the president's instructions, labelled it malicious and vengeful and moved the Supreme Court to deliver an order for its removal. The affidavit was submitted by Jayasundara's attorney Viran Correa in response to the 12 fundamental rights petitions naming Jayasundara and former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando as respondents in the April Easter Sunday attacks by failing to act on pre-existing intelligence. The 7-member judge bench ordered the former IGP to inform the court of his stance on submitting a revised affidavit on the 25th of August. Attorney Viran Correa requested the bench to grant him time to consult with his client. Counsel for former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando, Anuja Premaratne, in response rejected charges that his client had infringed on the fundamental rights of the petitioners and moved the court to dismiss the case. In addition, Premaratne also informed court that intelligence reports had not been shared with his client by the head of intelligence and stated that reports are instead usually shared with the President as Minister of Defence.
Winning your trust above all. We are HNB Assurance.
Now, drama in Sri Lanka's parliament is nothing new, and today was no different. With the absence of relevant subject ministers in parliament, there was uproar from members of the opposition as they were expecting answers for long-standing questions from those who turned up absent. There were accusations that the absentees may have chosen political affiliations over honouring parliamentary obligations.
15 questions raised by parliamentarians related to several ministries, which were scheduled for verbal responses, were included in today's parliamentary agenda. However, none of the relevant subject ministers were present in the House to respond to these questions.
Today marks a dark day for Parliament because this is the day where no minister is present to respond to any of these questions. Why are you even holding this parliamentary session? These parliamentary sessions will only be held for another few months. These responses were delayed by more than a year. This is a gross violation of parliamentary privileges. It must be noted that it is the ministers representing the United National Party who are not present here today. They shouldn't be running around trying to back a presidential candidate. All of them are participating in a rally in Kurunegala today.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, we will be moving only item 1, sir.
Only item 1, okay.
However, the debate on the Export Development Board Act had to be concluded by 3:30 p.m. since most of the members representing the government were absent. Opposition members then requested for a vote on the debate, which was declined by the Speaker. This led to a heated argument in the House.
ඔබතුමා මේ රටේ ඡන්ද කල් දානවා වගේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවත් කල් දානවනේ. සිරිකොතේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව නෙමෙයිනේ මේ පනත එක්ක ආණ්ඩුව අයින් කර ගන්න ඕන නැත්නම් පනත ඡන්දයට යන්න ඕනේ.
මේ වෙන විට තියෙන්නේ පනතේ ඡන්දය පවත්වන්න. මට සිද්ධ වෙනවා ඡන්දය ගන්න. ගරු කතානායකතුමා මුලාසනයට.
Order please. Order please. Honorable Prime Minister, yes, you have the floor. Yeah.
Has been going on and the minister has asked for time to come and clarify some of the issues that have been raised. So since the minister is not here, we have asked that it be taken up tomorrow when the minister will clarify the issues and reply. That's all that has been asked for. When a motion is moved or when a bill is moved, finally if it's an official one by the minister must reply. Or the minister must say, I am not replying. The minister wants to reply. Today is government business. So it's we who decided when to end the debate is a matter for the government. Not for the members here.
We have already scheduled a party leaders meeting now. I'll suspend for 10 minutes and we'll meet out the party leaders. No, we already have party leaders meeting. I'll check it out.
The parliamentary session was then postponed for half an hour so that a party leaders meeting could be convened. Following the meeting, the Speaker informed the Parliament that a vote cannot be undertaken as per parliamentary provisions.
පාර්ලිමේන්තු කටයුතු කාරක සභාවේදී සාකච්ඡා කොට එකඟ වූ පරිදි මෙම යෝජනාව වෙනත් දෙයකින් නැවත වාරයක් සභාවට ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමට තීරණය විය.
Now, President Maithripala Sirisena is buoyed by the fact that he is not accused of influencing the country's judiciary, unlike his predecessors. Addressing an event held in Polonnaruwa today, the head of state expressed contentment over his ability to ensure the independence of the judiciary as the sun sets on his tenure.
The 327 million rupee new court complex in Polonnaruwa comprised of a High Court, District Court, Magistrates Court and other office facilities was declared open by President Maithripala Sirisena today.
Independence of the judiciary has been ensured over the past few years in spite of all the criticism levelled in the society. This was what the public needed. All of the previous presidents are accused of exerting pressure on the judiciary and making wrong decisions about it. But I am very happy about creating an independent environment for the judiciary during my tenure. It is a privilege for the judges and a right ensured for the public. Now, Leader of the Opposition, Mahinda Rajapaksa, answered questions raised by journalists on the possibility of the Alpitia Pradesh Sabha election being a litmus test for the upcoming presidential election. He faced the media following an event in Colombo yesterday.
ඒ පක්ෂික වගකීමක් නාය පක්ෂ නායකයෙකුගේ වගකීමක්.
සර් එල්පීටී ඡන්දෙන කොහොමද සූදානම වුනේ?
අපි සූදානම්. ඕනෑම ඡන්දයකට අපි සූදානම්. ප්‍රාදේශීය සභාව වේවා, පළාත් සභාව වේවා, පාර්ලිමේන්තුව වේවා ඕන එකකට ලෑස්ති.
ඔබතුමා ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ ජ්‍යෙෂ්ඨ උපදේශක. ඔබතුමාට ආරාධනා කරා.
අදත් උපදේශක. හැබැයි සම්මේලනයට ආරාධනා නැහැ.
ජනාධිපති මැතිවරණයේ ප්‍රතිඵල එල්පීටීෙන් පටන් ගන්නවද?
බලමු. එල්පීටීෙන් ඒක තීන්දුව කරන්න අමාරුයි. එල්පීටී කියන්නේ නිකන් පොඩි ප්‍රාදේශීය සභාවක් නේ.
නමුත් රටම බලන් ඉන්න සර් මොකද වෙන්නේ කියන එක
මම හිතන්නේ නැහැ. උනන්දුවක් තියෙනවා.
Now, Parliamentarian Thalaka Barasuria today called on UMP Deputy Leader and Presidential Candidate hopeful Sajith Premadasa to detail his policies on national issues. The United National Party has several names on the table for the presidential election, with either party leader Ranil Wickremesinghe or Speaker Karu Jayasuriya tipped to join the fray. During a media briefing in Colombo this morning, MP Balasuria had strong words for Minister Premadasa.
There's been an outflow of rupees 25 billion from the Colombo Stock Exchange, and we also have noted that there has been at least US dollars 4.5 billion outflow from the Colombo Stock Exchange during the last 4.5 years. And this is in the backdrop of revenue decreasing from rupees 925 billion to 888 billion, and the expenditure increasing from rupees 1,271 billion to 1,410 billion. So in this climate, what we have seen is Sajith Premadasa has stated that he has has used 3.2 billion worth of money pertaining to the cultural funds without proper approval. So we ask him, is this the financial responsibility that he's going to show, or is this the leadership that he's going to show? There was a lot of confusion pertaining to the constitutional draft which has been presented in Parliament. There was a confusion over Orinittanadu. So what kind of words does Sajith Premadasa would like to use in his constitution? Whether it would be a federal constitution, whether he advocates executive presidency. Looking at the fiscal position and the financial position of this country, we certainly do think that Sajith Premadasa should be far more responsible.
Now, with all this happening, spokesperson of the SLFP MP Veerakumara Dissanayake says that Party General Secretary MP Dayasiri Jayasekara informed the Election Commissioner that the party will field a candidate of their own for the looming presidential election. Now, there are rumours that the SLFP will join SLPP, but this seems to contradict that rumour. Now, another rally to support Sajith Premadasa as the presidential candidate of the United National Party was held in Kurunegala today. Speaking at the rally, members of the party expressed confidence in Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, hinting on hopes that he will not prevent Premadasa from contesting the poll.
Another public rally to welcome Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Minister of Housing, Construction and Cultural Affairs, Sajith Premadasa, was held in Kurunegala today.
Sajith Premadasa අනාගත නායකයාට අනාගත නායකයාට
මම මේ ඊයේ පෙරේද කල්පනා කරලා බැලුවා අපි මොකටද මේ කුරුණෑගල රැස්වීමක් තියන්නේ කියලා.
I tried to figure out the reason behind today's rally in Kurunegala. This rally is not held for the benefit of Gotabe or the SLPP, but to show the UNP what's what. There is no question about the election's victory, but there is on making Sajith the party's presidential contender. We believe our Prime Minister safeguarded our party under dire circumstances, so he will never do anything to hinder the definitive victory we are going to witness in 2020. He has the support of the TNA, its leader Sambandhan, Ministers Rauf Hakim, Mano Ganeshan, Rishad Badidin and Palani Digambaram. So we have no problem in winning the election. My hands are not stained with blood or acts of corruption. We haven't protected drug dealers or murderers. Let them sling mud at me more. I promise you that I will sleep less and work more. This isn't a rally organised against anyone, but organised by members of the United National Front to champion the public. My wish is that the UNP will give me the chance to build the nation with the blessings of the entire party, including the lights of Karu Jayasuriya and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Now, in other local stories, Japan inked a 15 million rupee grant assistance with the Organisation for Habitation and Resources Development to improve learning environment at the Al-Arsat School in Samanture, a school for children with disabilities. Ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka, Akira Sugiyama, hopes that this initiative will help provide the necessary opportunities and life skills for school-aged children with disabilities in the area.
According to official census in 2012, around 2% of school-aged children in Sri Lanka have some form of disability. Among them, only 75% attend school due to various difficulties they face, including inadequate facilities in learning environments and negative social stigma towards them. With that being the reality, the Japanese government for years has focused on such vulnerable communities in Sri Lanka as one of its priority areas of assistance. Yesterday, the government of Japan inked a 15 million rupee grant contract under its grassroots human security projects with the non-profit entity Organisation for Habitation and Resources Development. This project aims to improve studying environment of 60 students with learning disabilities at the Al-Arsad School in Samanture Divisional Secretariat Division. The special education unit at the school is currently the largest such unit in the area.
According to Samanture IDS office, there could be 60 more children with disabilities who are not attending school in the district. The new building with facilities specifically designed for children with special needs will open the opportunity for more children to study at school and allow them to enjoy a safe and comfortable schooling experience.
There are more concerns from the international community over growing Islamophobia in Sri Lanka. Details after this break. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, although it has been four and a half months since the Easter attacks and the ensuing communal tension in the country, people from outside of Sri Lanka have taken notice of the growing trend of Islamophobia in the island. Arriving in Sri Lanka for a solidarity visit following the Easter attacks, South African Anglican priest and social justice activist Father Michael Lapsley calls for a new holistic national conversation to address issues against interfaith solidarity. Father Lapsley was an anti-apartheid activist who was a victim of a letter bomb that cost him both his hands and the sight in one eye, along with serious burns.
I think when a country goes to war, it is always about the failure of politics that lead to the war. The very fact that the terrorist attacks were aimed at a faith community has to focus our minds on the relationship between the faith communities. Those of us at a distance from Sri Lanka have been very disturbed by the growth of Islamophobia and the tendency to blame an entire faith community for the actions of a tiny number of people. The issue of interfaith solidarity has great urgency, not just in Sri Lanka, but across the world. The media has a key role in nation building and in the healing of the nation. I believe that the time has come in Sri Lanka for a new national conversation. And that national conversation needs to be not just about the politics, not just about the economics, but also to speak about the pain which is within each of the communities. Wherever people are excluded, eventually they'll go to war. So the antidote has to always be about how do you create an inclusive society. When terrible things happen, there's of great importance for thorough and timely investigations. And it is part of the responsibility of the authorities, as far as they're able, to try and find those answers.
Now, the Cabinet has approved the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1540 pertaining to preventing support for non-state actors in attempts to develop, acquire, manufacture, possess, transport, transfer or use nuclear, chemical or biological weapons and their means of delivery, particularly for terrorist purposes. A national control list is to be drafted within a year. The decision was made when the Cabinet of Ministers met on Tuesday. It also gave the green light to a proposal which calls for the empowerment of the General Treasury to establish a state-owned company to administer commercial activities of the soon-to-be handed-over Lotus Tower project. The Cabinet also gave the nod to the implementation of the National Policy on Garbage Management. The required legal framework and regulations are to be prepared accordingly. Former UPFA MP Sajin Devas Gunawardena has been granted bail by the Colombo High Court after being served indictment over money laundering charges. He has been indicted by the AG on the charges of money laundering amounting to over 306.26 million rupees. The court ordered that the defendant be released on a cash bail of 500,000 rupees and two personal bails of 5 million rupees each. The court also barred the former parliamentarian from leaving the country while he was ordered to hand over his passport to the court. The hearing of the case was postponed until the 1st of October. Now, over 40 foreign nationals working at a construction site in Kolpati were arrested by officials of the Department of Immigration and Emigration today. The arrest was made during a raid this morning. 44 Indian nationals between the age of 25 and 50 were apprehended as they had overstayed their tourist visa by remaining in the country, violating visa regulations. The Immigration and Emigration Department stated that the 44 Indian nationals will be handed over to the Mirihana Detention Centre after recording statements from them. although the debate on the Export Development Board Act had to be concluded earlier than expected owing to the absence of most members representing the government in Parliament today, some notable views were expressed during the debate. Addressing the House, Minister of Development Strategies and International Trade Malik Samaravikrama said that exports as a percentage of the GDP had now increased to 20% from 14% recorded back in 2015. The minister also commended efforts by the export sector and its members regarding the increased export revenue in the country.
Last year we recorded an export turnover of goods and services of 17 billion, which has been the highest ever recorded in our country. And this year, I'm very pleased to inform you that for the first 7 months of the year, our export turnover has been indicated at $9.5 billion. The target for this year is $18.5 billion, and I'm sure the way we are progressing, we will be able to get close to that. So far, there has been a 6.6% growth in the export of goods and merchandise during the first 7 months. The National Export Strategy has identified 6 new sectors where we think we should promote exports. And that is the boat building, IT services, wellness tourism, spices and concentrates, food processing, and electrical and electronic components. So we need to diversify product base. I think there's a lot of scope in exporting to Asia, India, China, East Asia, and so on. So those are all being done. We are looking at launching a One Village, One Product program, and this also will commence hopefully before the end of this month. When our government took office, exports as a percentage of GDP was something close to 14%. And right now, it has gone up to 20% of the GDP. And if you have to get away from all these loans that we've been taking from time to time, I think we need to ensure that our exports go up to about 30%. We also need to ensure that we bring export-oriented industries to Sri Lanka. It is time that we looked at high-value investments. Of course, it will take 3 to 4 years to bring the results, but we must make the start. The total investments, FDI investments, which has come to our country from 1978 to 2018, that is 40 years, is only $17.3 billion. And within the last 5 years, we have got FDIs of $5.8 billion, which is about more than 33%. In the first 7 months, projects to the value of $4.6 billion have been approved, and agreements have been signed for $4.1 billion. Now, these are, of course, long-term projects, but this will bring additional export revenue.
Now, Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority launched the much-needed one-day license renewal service for tourism sector service providers recently. SLTDA hopes that the new initiative will solve some of the pressing issues related to license renewal, which is an annual requirement. The one-day license renewal process by the Standard and Quality Assurance Division of Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority consists of 5 steps. Submitting the 2 required forms with all the necessary documents between 8:30 am and 10 am, collecting the receipt of acknowledgement, payment of tourism development levy and renewal fees, collecting payment receipts and handing over a copy of it to the counter, and collecting the license between 3:30 pm and 4:15 pm.
There are forms we have published by paper as well as on the web. It mentions very clearly what document we want. When they submit those papers before 10 o'clock on a working day, the Quality Assurance Department, our IT department and also the Finance department work together. By 3 o'clock, clear everything, and 3:30 they can collect back the renewed license. That is the one-day service.
Many people did their business without the license and the government lost revenue. And it's also a very serious problem, a serious complaint. So that matter has now been addressed. Hoteliers, other providers need not now come and complain, provided they have all the documents. In one day the renewal will be done. Have to keep abreast with the modern day developments.
Oil prices fell today, giving up some of the strong gains of the previous session after an industry report showed US crude stockpiles rose last week against analyst expectations of a decline. Brent crude was down 18 cents at $60.52 a barrel after it rose 4.2% yesterday. West Texas Intermediate was down 23 cents at $56.03 a barrel, having risen 4.3% the previous session, the biggest percentage gain in nearly 2 months. Data from industry group American Petroleum Institute showed yesterday that U.S. crude stocks rose last week while gasoline inventories decreased. Oil prices surged yesterday after a survey showed that activity in China's service sector expanded at the fastest pace in 3 months in August as new orders rose. China is the world's second largest oil consumer and largest importer, but as evidence mounts that the trade war between the United States and China is hitting economies worldwide, oil demand growth expectations have been trimmed. And now to give you a market update, the oil share price index ended 0.19% weaker at 5,850.25 today. Market turnover was 518.3 million rupees, less than this year's daily average of about 650.9 million rupees so far. Foreign investors sold a net 13.9 million rupees worth of shares, extending the year-to-date net foreign outflow to 1.65 billion rupees worth of equities. We now have a brief report on today's market performance.
The secondary market yield curve remained broadly steady while the overall market witnessed low volumes. However, during the early session of trading, selling pressure was witnessed on selected short to mid-term maturities, while later trading sessions saw buying from both local and foreign counterparties. In the equity market, index declined for the second consecutive day, recording 6-week low, primarily dragged down by CTC. All share price index witnessed uptrend in the first half hour of trading, prior to closing at 5,850, losing 11 points. Foreign sellers continue to be the net sellers for the fifth trading session with high foreign participation.
In the currency market, the Sri Lankan rupee ended 0.2% weaker at 180 rupees and 75 to 90 cents against the US dollar, its lowest since the 29th of January this year. It closed at 180 rupees and 45 to 75 cents yesterday. Let's now take a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies around the world. Just like the Sri Lankan Parliament, British Parliament these days is also a scene of drama. Let's take a look after this break. And welcome back. You're watching First at 9. British lawmakers yesterday voted in favour of a bill to prevent a no-deal Brexit at the end of October, meaning the British government has to extend the Brexit deadline until the 31st of January. Now, the bill passed in its final reading in the House of Commons by 327 votes to 299, and it will now go to the House of Lords for a vote before it becomes law with the Queen's approval. Meanwhile, the EU Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier held a series of meetings in Brussels yesterday as Britain's new negotiator David Frost was in town for a separate round of talks with EU officials. The former French foreign minister said that EU would remain in any circumstances vigilant, united and calm, whilst British and EU diplomats made clear there was no immediate prospect of substantive negotiations on an EU divorce deal. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani announces that the Islamic Republic will begin developing centrifuges to speed up the enrichment of uranium from tomorrow as the next step in escalating or scaling back its nuclear commitments. Under its 2015 nuclear agreement with world powers, Iran was allowed to keep restricted quantities of first-generation centrifuges at 2 nuclear plants, but the successful development of more advanced centrifuges would enable it to produce material for a potential nuclear bomb several times faster. Iran says it is only enriching uranium to fuel nuclear power plants. Rouhani also added Iran would take all necessary steps to protect its rights and interests and called the centrifuge development the third step in scaling back its commitment to the nuclear deal. The agreement lifted economic sanctions in 2016 in exchange for Iran agreeing to circumscribe its nuclear activities. The United States, however, quit it last year and reimposed sanctions. Now in tennis, it was a day of firsts at the US Open yesterday as Matteo Berrettini and Belinda Bencic reached their first ever Grand Slam semi-final in grand style. Old hand Rafael Nadal also made it into the semis as he bids to win his fourth US Open title. Berrettini's quarter-final, however, was nothing like Nadal's.
Four-time champion Rafael Nadal meanwhile overcame a big challenge, grinding his way into the semis with a 6-4, 7-5, 6-2 win over pint-sized Diego Schwartzman. Schwartzman made the 18-time Grand Slam winner work for every point before Nadal broke to go up 4-2, delivering the knockout punch as he held serve and closed out the match with another break. In the women's draw, Belinda Bencic reached her first ever Grand Slam semi-final after winning against Donna Vekic at the US Open last state clashes in New York's Arthur Ashe Stadium. The duo appeared evenly matched through most of the first set, but the Swiss 13 seed who knocked out defending champion Naomi Osaka earlier in the week took command of the match in the second set to take the match 7-6, 6-3. In the meantime, Canadian team...
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.